This is the Rohtang Pass, a major route through the Himalayas of northwest India. At 13,000 feet, it's a popular attraction for tourists wanting to enjoy a trip into the mountains. But few venture any further to see for themselves what lies and who lives beyond. The pass is a gateway to valleys and plateaus where the scenery is more magnificent, but not as striking as the struggle faced by the people. They're described as the forgotten people, living as nomads or in villages completely cut off for up to 6 months of the year, surviving a climate that's become much harsher, both environmentally and economically. Their voice is seldom heard, and their needs are rarely recognized, even though they are the effective guardians of one of the most significant and diverse ecosystems on the planet. But a British-funded project is bringing new hope by helping the communities to help themselves, or more precisely, to educate themselves. In this programme, we'll be seeing how local people are running and staffing new classrooms, making education available and, just as important, relevant for their children.
आजकल के मेरे उम्र के जो नौजवान है कोई औरतें हैं अपने आप के काम खुद कर पाते जी
A 4-hour drive from the nearest stretch of road, 14,000 feet above sea level, lies the village of Korsok in the district of Ladakh, close to the border with China. The small community has grown around a Buddhist monastery, and there never has been any secular education in the village. Until today. This schoolroom is opening to children for the first time, but their parents are just as keen to get through the door, so there's little time for ceremony. Almost the entire village has turned out for the occasion and share in the first ever formal lesson. Before today, the only education was provided by the Lama from the monastery.
Students in the school is very important because it is like a foundation to the students. The students learn so many things about the world, and they will do very well for their village and their society.
Do any of them know what they want to do when they leave school? This basic education is being provided by a charity called Pragya, created out of concern for the environment and communities of the Indian Himalayas. The children do have access to a state school, but they would have to board and parents would have to pay, so most have little choice but to stay at home. In Korsok, 60% of people have never attended any school.
तो बहुत लाभ होगा बहुत फर्क पड़ेगा क्योंकि यहाँ रहने वाला जो यहाँ में ट्यूशन का बिल्कुल फैसिलिटी भी नहीं है यहाँ करने वाला भी नहीं है आपका ये प्राज्ञा से ही कर चुका है अभी ये मेरे ख्याल से बहुत चलेगा ये तो मैं सबसे पहले बच्चों लोगों को ये सीखना चाहता हूँ कि ABC और ये पूरा अकाउंट और ये हिंदी का काका वगैरह वगैरह ऐसे सीख फिर आगे बढ़ते जाएगा ऐसे
In 2006, Pragya completed a comprehensive survey of education across the mountain districts, with help from the CFBT Education Trust. The survey discovered that a quarter of all villages had no school, and 3/4 only had primary schools. Literacy rates in rural areas were as low as 35% in some districts, 31% amongst females. It also found a high dropout rate amongst children, with more than half of them describing lessons as monotonous and oppressive. The survey concluded that a lack of quality education was leaving a people left behind, while other parts of the country were developing and prospering. Pragya responded by establishing what it calls alternative learning hubs and handing ownership and management to the local community.
Blue, sky blue.
This learning hub is in Urbis, a village also 14,000 feet up in the Ladakh district. The only way of getting there is to climb and clamber along these tracks for 3 hours or so. It's considered to be within easy reach compared with other villages, which demand a trek of 3 days or so. Of course, local people take it within their stride. And some get a lift. Urbis does have a state school, which opened 10 years ago as part of the government's drive to provide education for all. But the school doesn't provide education for all of the time, much to the resentment of the village elder or Goba.
यहाँ पर गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में जो है इतना है कि जैसे आपके जो कितना ये सामान दिया है उतने उनके पास नहीं है फिर भी आप जैसे कि अपना बच्चों को जो है हम कहीं दूसरी जगह में जो है ले जाना पड़ता है जब गवर्नमेंट छुट्टी हो जाता है तो इनको ट्यूशन की मदद ये है.
The state schools close because the teachers leave. Recruiting qualified staff to move into mountain villages at any time of the year is difficult enough. Finding them to stay through the winter is well nigh impossible. There's also a feeling that even when the school is open, it's not always worth attending. Children are forced to follow a syllabus designed in the cities, on the plains.
यहाँ पर एक तो मशहूर तो एक तो याक होता है गोरा होता है ये खच्चर होता है जैसे कि बकरी होता है भैंस होता है जैसे कि ये ग्वार होता है इसी तरह जो हर चीज़ की ये पशु का कोई वहाँ पर डोन में इतना होता ही नहीं कि जो एक
Pragya came up with a simple solution for both the problems of absenteeism and relevance. Train villagers to become teachers. They may not become fully qualified, but they do stay, and they do understand local priorities.
इक्विपमेंट्स इशू किए स्कूल में एलएच में वो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में नहीं होते हैं मैम इसीलिए बच्चे यहाँ आने के लिए इंटरेस्ट होते हैं क्योंकि उनको खेलने के लिए भी सामान मिलते हैं मैम और साथ साथ में सीख जाते हैं मतलब वहाँ पे ऐसे ही लेसन दे रहे हैं मैम और यहाँ पे साथ साथ में दिखा के उनको मतलब प्रैक्टिकली दिखा के पढ़ाते हैं.
By 2009, Pragya had opened more than 130 alternative learning hubs, after being awarded British lottery funding of £700,000 over 5 years. Children mostly spend the morning in state school, where there's one available and open, and the afternoon in the hubs. The charity is also overcoming another major obstacle to education in the mountains: power. Hydroelectricity is making a difference to many villages, but when the snow comes, the supply inevitably goes. But not in this village. This is Yoche, in the Lahore Valley of Himachal Pradesh, and this is undoubtedly one of the highest windmills in the world. A hybrid system of wind and solar power means that learning can continue all year and also at home.
वो तो भगवान के ऊपर ही है मैं तो अच्छे उसी तमन्ने से बैठे हैं अच्छे पढ़े लिखे बाप की तरह मुसीबत में ना फंसे और बच्चे जो खुद कमा के खा सके और आगे तरक्की करे भी इसलिए घर भी छोड़ना पड़ेगा माँ बाप को भी छोड़ के जाना पड़ेगा हमें खुशी है आगे जाएं पढ़े लिखे.
The learning hubs are managed by village education committees, guided by a district committee. The classrooms are open to everyone and also used for a range of courses, from hygiene and sanitation to ecology. The impact that can be made by education is well recognized, but not resisted.
नहीं सर जैसे हम लोग काफ़ी पीछे रहे हैं अब बच्चे तो नहीं रहेंगे नहीं क्योंकि 2 स्कूल है तो एक ना एक से तो शिक्षा काफ़ी अच्छी मिलेगा अगर 2 स्कूल में पढ़े तो बच्चे को पता लगता है कि हमने कहाँ पढ़ना आगे तो गांव में बहुत फ़र्क पड़ेगा जी सब बोलेंगे हम आगे जाएंगे तो अपना पढ़ने के बाद अपने पैर में खड़ा तो हो सकता है बच्चे जैसे आजकल हम जिम्मेदारी कर अगर हम पढ़े लिखे होते तो हम भी क्यों बैठते हम भी तो आगे होते.
Further down the valley lies the larger village of Darche and one of a network of rural libraries opened by Pragya. The libraries provide teaching materials that can be shared amongst surrounding learning hubs, as well as resources for the whole community. There's also a district centre which is reached along a narrow pass through the mountains to the town of Keelong. It's one of 17 towns which have so far been provided with what's called a Development Resource Centre to promote adult education and supplement secondary education. State schools across the region can rarely afford science laboratories and equipment, but teachers and students can find much of what they need at the centre. ICT equipment and training is also available to students of any age who want to expand their skills, as well as other vocational courses ranging from ecotourism, marketing and accounting. It's all aimed at promoting development from within the community, letting local people take the initiative rather than outside agencies. Lessons are held just for girls to encourage them to continue their education, often in the face of parental pressure to stay at home.
यहाँ पे जैसे खेती बाड़ी करते हैं लोग, तो उसके अतिरिक्त यहाँ पे आके लोग जो है अपने करियर को काफ़ी आगे बढ़ा सकते हैं. यहाँ पे जो फैसिलिटी है उनसे कंप्यूटर से सीख सकते हैं, बुक्स पढ़ सकते हैं.
But it's communities like this which present one of the biggest challenges for providers of education. These Himalayan nomads, called the Changpas, must move with the seasons to find grazing and shelter. Their children can attend boarding schools, but it's not an option that fits their means or their lifestyle. Pragya came up with a straightforward solution. If the children have to move, then the school and the teacher have to move with them. This tent, rather grandly called a mobile education unit, provides a basic education for younger children. The Changpa's language is Boti, but few here can currently read or write it, including the tribal elder or Goba.
मैं बचपन में कभी स्कूल में नहीं पढ़ा था, तो अभी इस वजह से बहुत घरे वालों से बहुत हम लोग बहुत दुखी में पढ़ाई था. तो इस वजह से इस टाइम से आप लोगों ने स्कूल इतना हमारे गांव में आकर इस आप लोगों ने बहुत मदद दिया कि बहुत हमारा बहुत खुशी में रहा है सब. माता पिता सब खुशी में बैठे रहे सर.
Mobile schools are now being provided for the families of migrant workers, supported by £600,000 of funding from Comic Relief and the lottery. 5 are bringing education to children in more than 30 camps, but there are plans to double that number. Pragya, meanwhile, is expanding its alternative learning hubs, not only across the high-altitude belt of India, but also into Nepal. As the global drive continues to provide primary education for every child, the work in the Himalayas demonstrates that no community is too isolated and no lifestyle too challenging to be left out.